everyone, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm Adam.
Today we are ranking movies. We got another list for you.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day is right around the corner. So, usually our lists are, we just pick movies. We do like best rom-coms or, we were kind of thinking something like that for this, but then Dylan had the wonderful idea to change it up a little bit. So it's not a movie list ranking, but characters instead. So today we are listing our favorite movie couples.
Ooh.
Yes. And so I think with that being the definition, I don't know about you guys, but I think that favorite versus best definitely came into play with my rankings. Because there's some that, admittedly, it's not like an epic, incredible love story, but I just like them as a couple.
Yeah,
and they're fun. Like, it doesn't all need to be so serious. Because at first, I think it was going to be best, and I was looking at like all these like classic old movies. I'm like, do I need to rewatch like Casablanca? Do I need to? It was like this whole thing, and then I was like, no, just do favorites, because then that opens it up. I feel like to a lot of different genres of movies.
Well, it's a better interpretation of love, right? Like,
well, yeah, and even like a horror movie can have a good couple in it, or a drama, or a kids movie, or any, So I felt like that leaving that kind of open was a good idea. And then we do a lot of lists. A lot of them are movie related, but in the past we've kind of branched out. We've done characters or actors, or and it's fun to kind of switch it up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess before we get started with this, kind of what strategies did you guys have to narrow this down? How did you define favorite? Or for me, I tried to go with couples that are like couples for basically the entire movie. So I kind of, so I threw out like the classic rom-com style where they're not a couple really until like the very end of the movie. Like, the movies where the whole point is the will they, won't they?
Yeah.
I kind of got rid of those because they're not couples the entire time. We don't see them that way. So I focused a lot on couples that are couples for basically the entire movie and have some type of like in this together feel, like they're working together against whatever the force is of the story.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I kind of did the same thing. I thought, how much of the movie's runtime are they actually together? And if it was like 10 minutes or less, it's like, no, I'm not gonna put that one on there. Or if they just have like one really great scene, kind of one memorable scene, but then I don't know, so going through it, there's a lot of options. I mean, my list ended up being pretty long, and it was kind of hard to narrow it down. Number 4 and 5 were hard to narrow down. But I think afterwards we can go around and do some honorable mentions, and I bet there'll be a lot of fun ones in there too.
Yeah, I just went with the ones that like I remembered like first, and then ordered those. And I did cross out like 2 of them because I figured one of you might have one that I thought of. But as far as like how much runtime and stuff, I just thought like how much did they stick in my mind? Is what do I think about when I think of like a movie that has a good love story or has good characters that are in love? And like, so that's just what I went with. So I have one on my list that's a very short, like basically a scene of them. And then I have ones where like the entire point is that they are like destined for each other. You know what I mean? So kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I definitely went for trying to, single like moments or scenes that like really stood out, I feel like, and kind of like, just like ascended to a higher level of like commentary on couples and just like, that's kind of what I looked for too. Like, are they bringing something to the table that makes them like a unique like couple, something that I hadn't seen before or just something like that. So that's kind of how I went into this list.
Yeah, and also I think it's amazing. We had no overlaps.
That is pretty incredible. I expected to have a few.
I expected several, and we've looked at this beforehand. I love all the ones that you guys picked. I had a clear-cut top 4 for like the entire time, and then had trouble finding a 5th. But we can dive right into this then, and I'll go first.
Okay.
So my number 5 is Oscar and Ellie from Let the Right One In.
Nice.
I think they're great. And also, anybody who watched our recent episode of our 5 favorite winter movies knows that I was furious when I forgot to include Let the Right One In. So now I think I'm just going to try to find any way imaginable to shoehorn this movie into like every list
Every list.
I mean, there's also
honorable mention, no matter the category. Like,
yeah. Remember the controversy of when we did our horror movie bracket too. Let the right one in, and I betrayed you and betrayed you and voted for Hereditary, and our friendship hasn't been the same since.
No, it hasn't. So Oscar and Ellie, this one is just two kids who are alone in the world, and the adults around them constantly fail them, and they find solace in each other, despite the fact that one of them is a vampire. Spoilers. And I just love their dynamic. I love the way the movie ends. And I think this is the only one that I have where they aren't a couple when the movie starts.
Okay.
But it happens pretty quickly. And I mean, they really get into it. Like, this really fits the like us against them theme that I was kind of going for. Like, once that they decide that they're like together, there is nothing that they will not do for each other, going to some extremes at multiple points. And the way that it ends, I think, is just perfect. So Oscar and Ellie is my number 5.
No, that's a great pick. That's a fun pick.
That's a great pick.
And I think they do, even though they are, young and kids, I think they are a couple, like, by the end of it.
For
like,
sure.
there's definitely, there's a
one of them's like 200 years old.
Yeah. And the other one is, just a lonely boy. So
you're right.
Match made in heaven.
Exactly.
All right.
Adam next.
Yeah, on to me. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I'm having some mic issues today, so I got a pop-up that said my mic wasn't connected.
It sounds like someone's pouring like sand like behind you or something. It's okay. No, it's okay.
My heater was on. I'll turn that
I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't know. It's an odd sort of interference noise.
Well, I'll rush through this and then I'll try to fix it.
Okay.
Yeah. My pick for number 5 was Kumail and Emily from The Big Sick. There's a lot of different factors at play here, which is why I chose it. I mean, he's an immigrant and his parents don't want him to marry like a white person. He's struggling to find his place in the world. He's like a struggling stand-up comedian. He meets this girl like basically randomly and falls in love, and then she has this like debilitating illness and she gets put into medically induced coma, and he's just got to like deal with that and then worry about like her family, and he dives headfirst into this relationship, and they're both like, they both know it's a thing right away, but there's external factors keeping them from like realizing that dream of being together. And I just love like how genuine it feels and how like true it is, and like that's the real story of how he got like married to his in real life wife. So it's the most like rom-com-y thing I have on my list. And because it is a rom-com, but it's also like a true story of like real love, which I had to put it on.
Yeah, I like that movie a lot. I also considered this, and unfortunately you are going to have to take care of your mic. Yeah. It's getting a little tougher, but yeah, I like The Big Sick a lot. Dylan, you've seen this, right?
I have not.
I think you'd really like it.
I heard really good things. Yeah.
It's also got Ray Romano and Holly Hunter in it.
Ooh, okay. Nice.
He spends a lot. They're Zoe Kazan's character's parents.
Okay.
So Kumail Nanjiani spends a lot of time with them, and those scenes are also wonderful. So definitely recommend it.
Ray Romano plays a great dad.
There we go. That's much better.
All right.
Nice.
Hopefully it doesn't start up again. But
fingers crossed,
Dylan,
guys.
Your number 5.
All right, over to me for number 5. This should be no surprise to fans of the podcast. I just could not leave them out. My number 5 is Trinity and Neo from the Matrix trilogy. That's my way of working around the whole, like, were they a couple for most of the movie thing?
Yep.
For most of the movie number 1, for the first one, they're not. But for the entire second and third one, they are 100% a couple.
Well,
and I just think, I mean, what?
Are you going to invoke the fourth one as well? Because like the love.
Oh God, I literally forget that it even exists. I literally forget that it even exists. But yes, the fourth one there too. But no, mostly I just think they'll
still come back.
Yeah, I mean, they're just so like extreme and extra. They take the idea of like a power couple to like the highest level it can possibly go. Like literally, like they're fighting for the fate of humanity. And they're in love, so they're fighting for each other. But also, they both can fight like crazy. Like if you took all of the couples on this list and had them do a battle royale fight to the death, Trinity and Neo are for sure winning. I mean, I know Ellie's a vampire, but like they have power, and I just love like their dynamic. Where I think the scenes where they're in private, they've got good chemistry, but like fighting side by side, actually like fighting the bad guys side by side, and like that, I feel like isn't. I don't know, that can be pulled off like on certain levels, and usually it's just kind of like, I don't know, or it's just not even a part of the thing, right? One of them, normally the dude, will be like the fighter and has to save, right? Like Spider-Man and MJ type of dynamic. With this one, it's like Spider-Man and Mrs. Spider-Man, like they're both badass, and so I love it.
Web.
They've got a lot of great lines. Trinity has a lot of great lines in the movie that pertain to Neo, and basically when anything tries to stand in her way of getting to Neo, she just is not having it. And I just love that commitment. So yeah, I couldn't help it. Had to get them on the list. So Trinity and Neo from the Matrix. I guess trilogy isn't accurate anymore, from the Matrix franchise.
Yeah. They both save each other at different. Yeah, they both save each other at different points. Like he pulls the bullet out of her and like shocks her.
The second one, I think the second one is the best love story movie of the three. The first one is definitely the best overall movie, but the second one, which I like more and more every time I watch, that has the best part of their love story, their couple start to finish.
For sure.
That's fantastic.
I do love when he's like dying at one point and she's just like, get up, like go do it, like get up right now and go fix the world.
Yeah, or when the French guy, the Merovingian or whatever, like kidnaps him. And they just go in there like guns blazing, and she's just like, either we all die right now, or you give me Neo. Like that's it. Like
that is what happens.
That is like, oh, that's badass. Okay, over to you, Nate, for your number 4.
My number 4 is from one of my favorite comedies of all time, and that is Armand and Albert from The Birdcage.
Incredibly good pick.
They are just wonderful.
So funny.
They definitely have the in it together feel, but not always. You know, part of the movie and part of the point is that Albert, played by Nathan Lane, starts to feel like Robin Williams' character Armand is kind of leaving him out of this plot that they have to sort of execute in order to help their son, which leads to a really wonderful scene when Armand has to, I think it's on the beach or kind of on a pier or something, when he has to go and kind of tell him like, no, you're like, I think in the movie he calls him his wife.
Yeah.
Just the way that they've chosen to sort of label each other and the language they've chosen. But it's like, no, I'm not going back to this woman. Like I'm with you in it till the end. And then they have to pull off this crazy stunt together, basically. And Robin Williams and Nathan Lane are both fantastic. It's a really fun movie. And those two are definitely right at the heart of it.
For sure, their chemistry and their comedic timing is just great, and it features one of the best facial expressions in movie history, I think, from Armand.
Which one?
When he walks in and realizes what Albert is trying to like pull off.
Yeah.
Like this, like I can't do it, but it's just incredible.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh man, yeah, that's a great.
All right,
pick.
On to Adam for your number 4.
My number 4 is should be pretty obvious to everybody, and I believe most people have seen this movie. This is Up. This is Carl and Ellie from Up. This is what I was talking about, saying they're in the movie for 6 minutes together, but you get the entire storyline, and there's tragedy, there's heartbreak, but there's at the root of all of it, it's just pure love. And then we spend the rest of the movie honoring her memory, and that's the best way, the most true to form, like, story of love that you can possibly have between two people, and I thought it's perfect. So
yeah,
it's short, it's sweet, it's to the point.
Like, yeah, if you're talking about like 6 minutes that can get the whole audience to cry at the beginning of the movie, not even the end. You've given no investment. They didn't know Carl or Ellie at all. And then you get 6 minutes of their entire story, and you feel like I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's the part that sticks out. I mean, you get from childhood love all the way through like old age. It's just absolutely the best storyline for it. And it's done in 6 minutes. It's just bananas. But yeah, not much more to say there.
No, that's a great pick. It's a great pick.
All right, Dylan, on to you for your number 4.
My number 4 is a little bit of a throwback. We're going Coen Brothers here, and mine is H.I. McDonough and Ed from the comedy Raising Arizona. Classic.
Amazing character names.
Yes, incredible character names. 1987, so a very young Nick Cage and Holly Hunter. And I mean, obviously they've got fantastic chemistry, and you meet them, you see how they met, but they're a couple pretty quick in the movie.
Yeah.
And mostly I just love the way that the way they play off each other, and like they're kind of like dumb and foolish, but like they just love each other so much. Like the way that High just keeps like breaking the law and keeps like and the running gag about going to the store and robbing the store, and like then he does it for the Huggies, and that's just like, and she realizes like what he's gonna do, and she's like, oh my god, but then she still picks him up and saves him. Like it's just this like the way that they like acknowledge each other's, like especially her, she acknowledges that High like isn't perfect, and she definitely like gets on him about his weaknesses, but at the end like she still loves him and he still loves her, and he's willing to commit crimes for her. Like pretty much at the drop of a
doesn't
hat.
want him to.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he shows his love.
Exactly. I just think, they got so many great lines. Just the way that she says, hi, I want that baby, hi. Like, that's just great. H.I. McDonough is an all-time great name. And then, Ed. H.I. McDonough and Ed. Edwina.
I'm trying, Ed.
Yeah. No. Yeah, so that's my number 4. Look,
awesome.
Get a little Nick Cage in there.
My number 3, a movie I believe Dylan still has not seen, and I'm just going to keep bringing it up until he does.
Dude, I haven't either, so.
And that is Vinny and Mona Lisa from My Cousin Vinny, played by Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei. And
I've heard fantastic
things.
This
is the ultimate bickering couple that at the end of the day is still on the same page. Mm-hmm. Like there's a level of it that they just enjoy. They enjoy arguing with each other. It's like part of the fun.
Yeah.
Is they just give each other so much shit.
Like intelligence testing each other, just poking the bear constantly.
Yeah, exactly. Like they scream at each other, and like they're both. I've talked about this before, where sometimes you get like a character or a person in real life who's just for whatever reason like funnier when they're angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of these characters fall into that category. And so when they argue over stupid things like tire marks or like whether or not the faucet is dripping or what kind of pants Joe Pesci should wear when he goes hunting, like it's just pure gold. The dialogue between these two and the chemistry between Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei is phenomenal. And then you get a good courtroom comedy drama on top of it. But these two are just an all-timer.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I do need to watch that for sure. And I have to stop putting that off.
Yeah. I got to I'm writing a lot of these down, just being like, all right, I really got to get to that. I really got to get to that.
Yeah.
So, nice. My number 3. Yeah. My number 3 is another famous couple, I suppose. This is Wesley and Princess Buttercup from The Princess Bride.
Nice.
I chose this because it's a timeless love story. I mean, they know they love each other. They loved each other forever. And it's now the journey to just go find the other person again, like figure out physically where they are at so they can be with them.
Well, at the end, doesn't Peter Falk tell us that this is the greatest love story of all time?
Yeah. It's something like that. So there we are. Like that's all you have to say. It's a fantastic movie beyond the point of like it's based around their love. It's your it's your hero's journey. It's your traditional stuff, but it's timeless in that way. So
yeah, I feel like in the kind of fantasy medieval genre, I feel like this is like the kind of like best romance kind of fairy tale depiction, because obviously there's ones that go like really realistic where it's usually dark and it's usually like, oh yeah, life was sure was awful in medieval times for everyone, or it's like way too like Ducky and Bunny, but I feel like this is just good. It just feels like a fairy tale.
Yeah. It's not The Last Duel,
No, exactly.
Nice pull.
So, all right, on to you, Dylan, for your number 3.
On to Dylan. Yep, Dylan, you're number 3.
All right, from one absolute classic to another, my number 3 is Joel and Clementine from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I did rewatch this in preparation for this list because I hadn't seen this movie in a good long while, and man, it's just really well done. Their depiction of a couple kind of with the time and like the flashback kind of setup, like you see different parts of their relationship at different times. And I just think the way that it's all shot and portrayed it just feels so like honest and kind of like real and like not, I don't know, like the way that it's very fascinating that the movie starts and they've already broken up. And so then you're kind of backtracking while you're going through the memories while he goes through the memories, and you see all the different stages. And it's fascinating to see, like, you know, when they're first in love and everything's great. And then you see when, like, a day before they broke up and they're just both like bickering and miserable. And I just think the performances and the chemistry between Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet is just fantastic. So I figured one of us would have this. I'm kind of surprised that neither of you did, but Joel and Clementine from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Especially for our generation, you know, I like when this came out, I felt like, I don't know, every girl in our high school had seen it and loved it. Like everyone was just like, this movie's incredible.
This is probably my. You haven't seen it, Adam?
Wow.
Okay. I really think Adam would love this movie.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Right. This is probably one of the best movies that we have in this entire list.
All around. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely considered it. I didn't end up getting to rewatch it, and that's kind of just left it off. But no, this one's fantastic.
And I won't spoil it because Adam, thank you for telling me that you've never seen it. But the ending, the way it ends, is I think also what really stands out for why they deserve to be on this list. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, so after this episode, I'm watching this one. Got it.
Yeah, we're watching this and My Cousin Vinny.
As a palate
you're doing for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Number 2 for me is Mac and Kelly from Neighbors.
That's a surprise.
At this point, I honestly think this is my favorite Seth Rogen movie.
Okay.
Which is not a very common opinion.
But a long list, but
he's got like a dozen movies or so.
He's got quite
he does. I thought you were going to say at this point, I think this is like my favorite comedy or something. And I was like, damn. And then you were just like, Seth Rogen movie. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's very qualifier.
Way smaller.
Right. Yeah. We're not working like every movie ever made.
Yeah.
Everyone ever made by Seth Rogen.
Okay.
These two are an absolute blast, and the chemistry between Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne is unmatched in any type of comedy where there's a couple like this, or just any type of romantic comedy, period. I think these two are phenomenal. Just kind of the balance that they strike between trying to be responsible adults and parents to a newborn versus getting caught up in this childish feud with the frat house next door.
Yeah.
And like thinking back into that level. And then like, but at the same time, like, don't forget the baby monitor. It's a great balance. Those two are great together. And this one also like really fits kind of what I was looking for with they're a couple the whole time. And it's them against something. And the whole movie, they're in it together. And I just think it's fantastic. I like this movie more every time I watch it. It's also only like 90 minutes long, which is just a really lost art these days.
Yes.
The art of making something short.
Especially this year. Apparently it was impossible this year to make a movie under 90 minutes.
Yeah. Like Hollywood this year, in response to, fewer people going to the theaters, their response to that was, well, let's go back to when like the Oscars were huge in the 80s and the 90s and everybody made like 3-hour epics.
Yeah.
I think they kind of missed the reasons for some of these, but I
feel like they saw the success of Top Gun and they were like, people like it because it's long. It's like, no, it's not.
Like, you like it because it's fun and good.
Yeah.
Like, remember when Titanic won Best Picture?
Yeah. Remember when Braveheart won Best Picture?
Dances with Wolves. We can just keep going.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So many long movies. Got one award. All right. Nice. That's a great choice. And I would not have guessed that.
Speaking of long movies.
Honestly, I almost put Mac and Kelly at number 1.
Yeah. Dang.
If I was just going to hang out with one of these couples, it would definitely be them.
Okay.
That's fair. That's
nice. Nice.
All right, my number 2. If you're a fan of the podcast, you know what's coming. This is Marianne and Eloise from Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Absolutely.
It's the best love story I've experienced in my life in film. So that's all I can say.
They were probably my number 6.
Yeah, I think they were number 6 for me. They're fantastic. I definitely, from the beginning when we came up with the idea for this list, I was like, okay, they're a contender for sure.
Yeah.
So but then I was like, Adam will for sure have them.
Yep.
It will be there. It will be there. And
So.
I'll talk to you about why I didn't choose them as number one. Obviously my number one pick, but I also just like, I love the story of them getting together and then like knowing like what forces will keep them apart, even though they still love each other.
Yeah,
And
the
then
doomed,
the scene
the
at the
doomed
end.
romance.
Yeah.
They just
It just
nailed that. And the end.
nailed.
The
The
scene
end
at
is
the end just
one of the best things I've seen. So
yeah.
it's go watch this movie. That's all I'll say.
I
Mhm.
I need to rewatch this. This
It's
one and
just-
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I might watch both of those this week.
Yeah.
Ooh, that'd be that's a good combo right there.
Yeah.
All right,
So, yeah,
nice.
that's
That's a
all I'll
great
say.
choice. Yep. Glad that got on there so we could all co-sign on that one. Now over to me from my number two, a movie that it's from a movie that I'm pretty sure neither one of you have seen.
I haven't, and I actually thought about watching this movie specifically for this episode, but I just didn't get to it. But I really need to get to this one.
Yeah, we are going back to the Nick Cage well. We are going to 1990, so 3 years after Raising Arizona. And my number two is Sailor and Lula from the David Lynch film Wild at Heart, which is just a crazy, like, balls to the wall love story, done the way that only David Lynch can do, where everything is just extra and deep, and you're like, oh god, this is like working on like 6 different levels. Like, what the fuck? Like, but also
it either works on every level for you or on none. I feel like
yes,
that's a David Lynch movie.
But yeah, I mean, first off, the names Sailor and Lula. I mean, and it's Nicolas Cage plays Sailor, and Laura Dern, a very young Laura Dern, plays Lula, and they are. I mean, it is just David Lynch horniness. I mean, they are so horny in this movie. It is just so many sex scenes. The outfits that Lula is wearing, I mean, this is the movie where like, they embrace and they're both like, oh, like it's just like, oh my god, you guys. Like, it's just so crazy extra. And yeah, I watched this movie like a couple years ago, and it stuck with me mostly because of them. And I think that if anyone saw Bones and All from this year, Timothy Chalamet was definitely channeling Nick Cage from this movie. Like,
okay.
I've read other people say that, and I picked up on that. Just his voice, his demeanor, and just kind of the it's very similar story, kind of lovers on the run. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's just great. So number two for me, Sailor and Lula, almost number one, but I just figured since nobody else had seen it, it's kind of a little bit of a cult one. But I think at some point we will have to get to this because I would love to hear your take on it, Nate. Maybe this would be a movie club pick or something down the road.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Oh, and also, since none of you had it, I thought about Mulholland Drive. Because
although not at the same time.
I know, that's the thing. Like, does that count? No. I thought about it.
I mean, yeah, because we've talked about doing a toxic couples list. They could be on both lists.
They could. They could. Favorite couples and most toxic couples.
Yep.
And Sailor and Lula maybe could too, but that's my number two. So back to Nate. We've made it all the way to our number ones.
Yeah, my number one should not be a surprise to anybody. This is just the most obvious pick in the world to me, and that is Jesse and Celine from the Before trilogy. So same thing with Dylan with the Matrix trilogy, where kind of they're not a couple for the entirety of the trilogy, but also the whole trilogy is just like them.
Yeah.
Basically. So even like the first one where they're like meeting, it's just like the best first date, random meet somebody on a train ever.
Yeah.
And this does kind of fit. It doesn't fit like them against something as well because there isn't really a specific force, but there also kind of is at the same time. We're just like other forces from life, like the fact that they're separated by an ocean and that they have lives in their own countries and that they continue with. So there is an element of this trilogy that is kind of them against just the forces of their own lives that seem to kind of try to keep them apart a little bit. And the chemistry between Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy is phenomenal. I mean, just one of my favorite movie trilogies ever. Some of my favorite movies of all time. So these two were a no-brainer for number one.
Yeah, I figured that would be your number one. And I wanted to get to those before this list because I feel like they would have made mine too. But 3 movies, man, that's can't just knock that out real quick.
Right. No. Although I will say the second one is like 82 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The first
I guess I was assuming all of these were long.
No, the first two aren't that long. I mean, the second one is short. The first one's like 100 minutes. And I think the third one is a little longer. I think it's like a little under 2 hours.
Okay. Nice. It's a good choice. All right. Adam, your number one.
I love
this pick so much.
My number one pick is Morticia and Gomez Addams from the Addams Family and the Addams Family Values.
Yes.
This is like my favorite like couple like ever. They're always like the most affectionate people to each other. Like it definitely speaks to like my love languages. Like always show how much you appreciate somebody else's presence in your life. And they're always like the most loving, the most caring, while being like eccentric and weird people, which is like everyone is eccentric and weird to somebody else. But if you find somebody that fits, like hold on to them forever. And they're just the most loving family, and they're the best. I saw these movies when I was really young, so it clearly made an impression. I didn't get a chance to rewatch this before, or at least the first Addams Family before this list, but that's always stuck in my mind. Those two have always, their love is always stuck in my mind as like the pinnacle of like what you should look like in a relationship. You should always appreciate the other person. Also, it doesn't help that like Angelica Houston and Raul Julia were amazing for the roles. So
yeah.
I
haven't seen very much Addams Family stuff at all. Any of the movies or anything. So
these are the only ones you need to see. Don't see any of the new stuff. Don't see any of the, like the animated weird. Like, don't worry about it. See this.
Okay. What about in the show Wednesday?
I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard amazing things.
I'm guessing that Morticia and Gomez are in that.
I really need to get to that.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I'm sure they are.
I'm sure they are. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, this is the definitive version.
That's a good pick.
Thank you.
All right. To you. Last but not least, my number one, it's a favorites list, not a best list. And my number one is unabashedly Rick and Evelyn from the Mummy movies. I couldn't say trilogy because they replaced her in the third movie with a different actress. It was just criminal. But for Mummy 1 and Mummy Returns, I mean, it's just something about their chemistry and like immediately, and just kind of that classic throwback, timeless, like epic adventure love story that like Indiana Jones tried to do, but they could never really pull it off. Like
Romancing
it never really
the Stone.
Yeah, Romancing the Stone, and also just kind of like this is our generation's version of what a lot of audiences saw in the 30s and 40s and 50s with these just over the top epic adventure love tales where it's just, even like we mentioned Casablanca earlier, right? Where it's everything is just designed. It's just so Hollywood and it's so this, and it ends with a big passionate kiss. And I just felt like Rick and Evelyn are as close as we get to that. Like Brendan Fraser, leading man, action man. He is perfect for it. He looks it. He just nails that. And then Rachel Weisz is just, I mean, I don't know what, anyone our age who grew up, I don't know how you didn't have a crush on Rachel Weisz.
Yeah.
I mean, she is just like, she's just this dream, like really smart, really beautiful, but she can also kick ass. And she's like, not afraid. She's really brave and just, I don't know. There's something about them. They're just so timeless. And I just think that is like one of the best like casting and like pairings in movie history. And I don't think those movies work as well. Definitely if either one of them would be like somebody else. I just can't imagine.
That's why the third one doesn't work as well, because it's not.
I know.
Like it's
just
like,
who the hell is this?
Why did you do that? This was already amazing. You just ruined it. Like
I know. And Rachel Weisz, favorite of the show for sure because we love her in The Lobster as well. She picks good roles. And Brendan Fraser is now probably going to win an Oscar this year. Maybe we'll see with The Whale, which we have not gotten to yet. But my number one, Rick and Evelyn from the Mummy movies. I just think it doesn't get much better than that.
I agree. Good list. Good number ones, boys.
Yeah, that was a fun list. I'm so very surprised we didn't have any overlap. But let's get to some honorable mentions.
Yeah, well, you just mentioned one that I had, Dylan, and that was Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz in The Lobster.
Nice.
They are. I rewatched that like 3 weeks ago, and they are just adorable in that movie together. They're both kind of odd, but they fit together so well. And
they
then
make sacrifices for each other.
They absolutely do. And talk about like an in it together feeling. Like that definitely has it. I mentioned this to Adam before we started recording. I thought about Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett from Sweeney Todd.
Okay.
To take it in kind of a different direction, but the way that ends, I thought not really
it's
fitting.
Like Love, but not exactly. Like
yeah, pretty much. And then there are some other ones in movies that we'd kind of mentioned where they're not really together the entire movie, but that doesn't mean it's like not good or anything. Like When Harry Met Sally, or Pride and Prejudice, or Casablanca, Carol, La La Land. Those are all really good ones. And then we can all talk about this one, but one that Dylan kind of had an aha moment right before we started was Wall-E and Eve.
Yes.
Yeah, I almost put that on because I clearly had Up, and I was like, that's another one, but I don't want to have 2 Pixar movies. Like,
And then I also thought of last one I thought of was Pongo and Perdita from 101 Dalmatians.
Ooh. That's a good.
Okay.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
That's a great one. I didn't even think about that. I still think
the most underrated Disney animated movie of all time. So I thought about drawing more attention to that, but didn't quite make the cut.
Nice. Some of my honorable mentions, Love and Basketball. That's a great
I thought you would have this.
Yes, that was like my number 6. And then definitely Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Eyes Wide Shut. I mean, it's just, they are already a couple. They were a couple in real life, and Tom Cruise. And I mean, that's definitely, it's taking a look at a different, darker side of being a couple, which most movies I feel like don't really address. It's either like at some point in the movie, someone cheats, and then it's like, oh, I made a huge mistake, where this movie like dives into like the psychology of wanting to cheat in the first place. And like, it's like, so that was definitely a consideration. I did have The Apartment, but they don't really end up together until the very end, so I didn't want to include it. Spider-Man and Mary Jane, specifically the Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst films. Fantastic. The best portrayal of that love story, I think. And just Tobey Maguire's kind of boyish shyness with Kirsten Dunst, just like peak cuteness. It's just like, just a great couple. You just want them to get together so bad. I also thought about, Aragorn and what's her face from Lord of the Rings? Eowyn.
Forgetting her name probably disqualifies that.
Yes.
What's her face? The one that he's like loved forever. And
I just kept wanting to say Liv Tyler, and it's like, no, that's not. Yeah, Aragorn and Eowyn from the Lord of the Rings. I thought about, but they're not really ever a couple until the end. But
pretty sure it's Arwen.
Eowyn
is the niece of.
Yeah, you're right. Well,
see,
for goodness sakes, they made their names so similar.
Yeah.
Thought about Worst Person in the World for the older
either
guy.
Of them.
Yeah, either of them really, though, because the way she meets the second guy is fantastic. And then I guess other than that, I did have Bonnie and Clyde, but that was just kind of a loose honorable mention. Harold and Maude, but that's kind of, we had already mentioned them recently in an episode, but that is kind of, if we're talking unique romances, I feel like Harold and Maude and Oscar and Ellie are both very kind of fascinating couples.
For sure.
So those are my honorable mentions. And I do need to, this has made me realize that there's like 5 movies on here that I do for sure need to watch. I need to get to My Cousin Vinny. I need to get to, what was the other one? The Before trilogy, all 3 of those, probably one of those Addams Family movies. And then I should really rewatch Neighbors and The Big Sick. God, I got so much stuff to watch off this list.
Right?
Yeah. I definitely, I added like Wild at Heart. I really need to get to.
And I thought you might have If Beale Street Could Talk, Nate. I was kind of expecting.
I thought about that one too. It was more just. I'm glad you mentioned it though, because I did have it on my honorable mentions and just kind of missed it here. But it was just, I didn't get to it again, and just didn't feel comfortable enough.
Yeah,
there's some details. I don't remember everything about that movie, but that one definitely, it's a fantastic movie. But just missed it.
All right.
Yeah, well, I had a few.
Yeah.
You had Trinity and Neo, so that was one of mine, but I crossed it out because I figured you might have that. Yep. I only had a couple other ones, obviously Wall-E and Eve, and then I did another couple that was a couple in real life. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, because that's just a fun like shoot 'em up, and that's just a fun movie. And then what was the last one I just had? I didn't write it down. I guess that was it. I had something else and I completely spaced on it, but yeah, just a couple. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of movies that have good couples that don't actually stay together, or like somebody dies at the end. Like Queen and Slim is the one I was thinking of. Like that's not exactly what I was, because I didn't think that was that great of a movie, and there's a little bit of weirdness for that movie, but not a bad.
No, I think that would count. I mean, even like Badlands. You know, that's any kind of lovers on the run story. I think is good for this. But yeah, no, this was fun. And yeah, next Valentine's Day, maybe we'll do most toxic couples.
Yeah.
Or favorite platonic relationship.
That's good too. I like
those too, because there's some very good movies in that very limited category. But.
Yeah. I like all the things that we've picked here today, though. This is a great list.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, there you are. 15 plus, I mean, basically 30 movies you could watch on Valentine's Day this year.
Look at that. Yep.
And have a good time with them.
And I'll have great couples. All right. Nate, is it your turn to put a wrap on the show?
It is.
All right. Take it away.
I feel like sometimes I'm in my own little world and you're always next to me and I don't know how you do it, but you understand me.